When we welcomed Sara Avant Stover to Chief for Yourself, we heard how some simple, natural, and fun practices can put women back in sync with their own cycles and those of nature. Sara's book, The Way of the Happy Woman, describes an ancient way of living in harmony with oneself and one's surroundings as a feminine being in the modern world. This is Sara Avant Stover on Chief for Yourself.
You came to the way of the happy woman through your own experiences, which included a very serious health challenge. Talk about what life was like for you before you worked with the tools that you offer in the book.
Well, I had always had a sense that something was missing in my life and that I didn't fit in some way. And the results of that feeling estranged from the people around me and from myself were a lot of self-hatred, so really low self-esteem, and in turn, as is true for many young women, I had eating disorders of anorexia and bulimia. I was also an exercise addict, and more socially and academically, I was an overachiever, straight A student, and just looking for love outside of myself, wanting people to like me and to accept me, and so always trying to prove myself. And I truly believe that those things, of course, they're not sustainable, and those led up to my health crisis of being diagnosed with the advanced early stages of cervical cancer when I was 21, just about to graduate from college. And I also had, as part of what I was experiencing, a real confusion and bewilderment about how to be a woman in the world. I didn't see role models that were living in ways that I wanted to live as a woman, which is to be really embodied, to be really confident, to be really connected to myself and my inner world and at home in my spirituality, and to be able to go out in the world and do anything that I wanted to do, and to be very feminine in the process. So that healing crisis really led me to, one, heal myself physically and emotionally, and also start to take the steps I needed to take to become the woman that I knew I came here to be.
Now, when you got the diagnosis of the cervical cancer cells, did you rely mostly on mainstream medicine, or did you lean toward natural and holistic means of healing, or a combination of the two?
Well, first I had a procedure that freezes the irregular cells of the cervix, and that was the only treatment that I had from Western medicine, but also because I wasn't at the stages where I needed something more aggressive than that medically. So beyond that, I just had checkups with my gynecologist every 3 months. And in terms of alternative medicines, when I went to Thailand, I had the great good fortune of coming across a really, really wonderful traditional Chinese medicine doctor. And I worked with her quite intensively through all my years there, but especially my first few years, and was on herbal medication from her for those 3 years and getting regular acupuncture as well. And then on top of that, just other lifestyle changes of diet, of yoga for my particular constitution, and particularly bringing more energy and circulation into my pelvis, meditation to start to work with my mind, and a complete lifestyle overhaul of my pace of life and how I chose to spend my time.
The suggestions laid out for women in the book include proper rest and nutrition, but there's also an inner aspect to the way of a happy woman. What is the best, or are the best ways to go inside, and what might a woman learn when she gets there?
Well, there's a few things, and one is to simply open up a dialogue with yourself. And I think most of the time we're in a sort of a monologue with our thoughts, and our thoughts are in a stream of worry or planning, or fantasizing about the future, or being nostalgic about the past. And what I mean by an inner dialogue is to really penetrate through the mental layer into the deeper parts of yourself and start to regularly ask yourself, or even at the beginning stages, simply to ask yourself first thing in the morning, what do I need today to bring me health and happiness and harmony? And see what arises, see what the answer is. So to let your daily rhythm be guided from the deepest part of yourself, rather than by your conditioned thoughts of how you think things should be and how things have always been, but more from an intuitive place of what's actually needed today for me as the woman that I am right now. So that's one thing. And then another thing to really open up that inner dialogue and to fortify a connection with oneself is through journaling. And in each season of the book, as it's divided into the 4 seasons, the last section in each of those seasons has journaling prompts to help cue you to elaborate upon that inner conversation and to really concretize your dreams and your goals and your aspirations and what's keeping you stuck and where you need to ask for help. And for me, I have pretty much a daily practice of writing in my journal about 3 pages, and that is a habit that I took on after many years ago doing The Artist's Way, a book by Julia Cameron, which I know is quite popular. And those morning pages, which I don't always necessarily do in the morning, I do it whenever I have time, help me to digest the events of my life, to process things emotionally, and just to get things off my plate so I'm not carrying them around inside of me, but they're more external, and then I can better extract the wisdom from them that I need to really learn the lessons that are present for me in my life to live in a better and more skillful way as I go forward.
Early in the book, you say you wouldn't trade your hard times for anything. How did those hard times help to shape you as a woman?
Well, I believe that our poison is our medicine. And it's really those hard times that show us what we're made of and who we truly are, what our capacity is. And I think that for me, my hard times, which even include the writing of this very book, that was a really huge challenge for me on a lot of levels, just overcoming a lot of logistical things about how to make that happen in my life amidst running my business and having my relationships and taking care of myself, but also mentally and emotionally, just feelings of self-doubt and self-judgment and, well, who am I to write a book? Who am I to say these things? So I feel like when we go through those rites of passage, they really expand our perception of what we believe we can do and take off the limits. So it really allows us to see the limitlessness of what's possible. And also when we're willing to really dive into the hard points of being alive, into the hard emotions, the unsavory circumstances, when we really lean into them without running from them, then they're transformed. Then they can become something else, and they actually become the portal into our next greatest expansion, or next greatest taste of freedom and true joy. And you can't have one without the other. You need to walk into and really be devoured by that dragon, whatever it is you're facing, either inside or outside of yourself, in order to be reborn someone new.
You write that 2 of your heroines were Anne Frank and the poet Sylvia Plath, both of whom died very young. What did their brief lives teach you?
Well, I was particularly attracted to their journals. And something about, I've been an avid journaler since I was a young girl, and there's something about reading a woman's journal that is really inspiring for me. And I love being let into her world, into her triumphs and her pains, just her realness of being alive and not censoring it. And I think that I grew up with a lot of inner pain growing up, as many of us do, in a very dysfunctional family. And as I mentioned before, just always felt like an outcast to a certain degree, and so did those 2 women. But I greatly admired them because they had a dignity and a beauty and a love for words and language and for extracting meaning and a real spiritual connection, even if they didn't necessarily say it in those words, that resonated with me and gave me hope. They both did die young and tragically, and I my life doesn't have that same story. And I also hope that I can, through my writing and through my sharing the realness of who I am, offer inspiration to women that has hopefully more of a happy ending than those two women had.
The world as it is today can be very confusing and at times scary. What would you say is the biggest challenge facing women right now?
By far, stress, and it's getting more and more stressful every day, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. So I think that now more than ever, we need to do the practices like those that I outline in the book. I feel really adamant about that, to continually feel our feet on the ground, to stay grounded amidst all of this technological expansion, and, the fact that we're always plugged in. We can always be reached. We don't have the luxury of living in a world anymore where we don't constantly have text messages or emails or phone calls unless we exert a lot of discipline and take ourselves out of that world. So, we need the practices to help us stay connected to who we are amidst all this moving out, and we also need the practices like meditation to stay connected amidst the busyness of whatever we're in, to stay really present and to start to see stressful experiences in a different way, to change our perception of how can we relate to them with more ease, with more openness, with more relaxation, with more of a sense of joy and pleasure. And to play the balance between those two, of working with your perception of stress and actively engaging in practices that help to reduce it.
Our guest today on Chief for Yourself is Sara Avant Stover, author of The Way of the Happy Woman, Living the Best Year of Your Life. Since we're talking about the happy woman, what does happiness mean to you? Can you define it?
Happiness to me is being with what is. And so I mean happiness in the deepest sense, just that allowing yourself to be relaxed, spacious, open, grounded in the essence of who you are, and that's willing to face whatever is arising in yourself or in the world around you. So sometimes that has the flavor of sadness and grief. Sometimes that has the flavor of excitement and joy, sometimes of fear and anxiety. But whatever it is, we don't push it away, we don't pull it in, but we just sit with our palms open and say yes, and be with it, embrace it.
Throughout time, women have kept a special relationship with nature, and yet in the Western industrialized world, we've been conditioned to dominate things natural. What can women do to return to a healthier interaction with nature?
Well, there's lots of things we can do, and I want to speak at a really practical level because, as I mentioned before, I really empathize with the amount of stress that we're all under and how busy we are. So one simple way is to bring plants in your home. I'm sitting right now in my living room, and I'm looking around at 5 different plants I have in my living room. Great. So plants, keeping green things alive around us. If you can grow herbs on your windowsill or have a community garden space, go to your farmer's market and really interact with the farmers, buy foods that are in season, get familiar with the foods that are in season, and cook those for your family, because the foods that are in season actually hold the medicine and the information that we need to stay healthy at those times of year. Walking as much as possible, even if it's just walking around the block during your lunch break. But when you're walking, really be present rather than being lost in thoughts. Really feel your feet on the earth. And then anytime that you can, when you have a vacation or a weekend off or a day off, find a way to get out into nature. Go rent a cabin somewhere in the mountains or by the sea, go camping, go on a hike, go on a river trip, go to the beach, whatever you can do to just reestablish that connection, because it's hugely grounding, it's hugely revitalizing, and it's hugely inspirational.
The Way of the Happy Woman reads like several books. You've included meditation and yoga practices and diagrams with recipes and, of course, your own story. The book addresses women specifically, but can it also speak to a male reader?
Yes, Yes, it can, and that wasn't my intention when I was writing it, just because I wanted to be really specific about my audience. But I have heard now from various women who've read the book that their husbands have read either the whole thing or certain chapters, and it's really given them more insight into how women work. And there's that saying, happy wife, happy life. So really what's going to light up a woman from the inside. And then, of course, a lot of them are non-gendered practices. So, of course, men can eat in this way and do the journaling practices and do the yoga and meditation practices. And since we all do have masculine and feminine energies within us, and that's one of the key things that we need to really find more balance as in the collective world between masculine and feminine, if we can harmonize those more within ourselves and feel more comfortable being in our masculine and being in our feminine energies and being more skillful with that, I think that this book can also be a help for men to get in touch with their feminine aspect too. And by that I mean just like our emotions, our relational aspects of wanting to create community and interactions, and our creativity, our pursuit of pleasure over productivity, those types of things, honoring cycles and seasons and rhythms.
Right about now, women may be thinking, how can I power down in my day to do the kinds of things mentioned in the book when I don't seem to get a minute to myself?
Well, and that's a really valid question, and I think I'm asked that in every single interview that I've given so far for this book, which has been hundreds, because it is crucial. And I say in my book many times, and I say it every time in my interviews, that this is a practice for warriors, for warrioresses. You need to really want this. You need to want to be happy. And we all do. We all share that longing. It connects us. But you need to feel that burning desire, that hunger for it, and be willing to make some changes in your life. So the first request that I have in order to make that happen is to cut out something that you're doing for 10 or 15 minutes. So you can't just stop doing something. You need to start doing something different. So choose what you're going to stop doing for 10 to 15 minutes a day. So some suggestions are, spend 10 minutes less on Facebook or surfing the internet. Spend 10 minutes less watching TV. Wake up 10 minutes earlier, go to bed 10 minutes later, and use that time to sit in meditation or to write in your journal or to sit outside and look at the stars or look at the sun rising, listen to the birds. Some practice that connects you with your being nature, which is the truth, the seat, the expansiveness of who you are. And to stop playing a victim if you don't feel happy in your life. But you're the only one who can really give that to yourself. So to ask, what's your resistance? What's stopping you? What are you waiting for? No one's going to hand you the magical pill or the perfect time. The perfect time is now. The magic pill is you, and the solution is here, is showing up.
You lived in the big city earlier in your life. Do you think women should consider getting away as you did, or is there a way to coexist with all the noise and crowding?
Well, I think it's a really personal decision. We all have different constitutions. For me, as I am now in my life, there's no way I could live in a big city. I really need nature around me. But I also, I love living in a place like Boulder because I have nature, but I also have a vibrant community, and there's a lot of interesting things to do. I'm near an international airport, so I'm not in the middle of nowhere, but I can very quickly, within a 25-minute drive or something, be up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. So I think we need to just really look at what we're needing in our lives, and some women live in certain places for jobs or for the school systems for your children or for your husband's job or your partner's job. So to really inquire, is this where I want to be living? And if it's not, where do I want to live, and is it possible for me to live there? And if it's not possible to live somewhere else, how can you make the most of it? To bring more plants into your home, see if you can grow a small garden either on a roof or in a community garden spot or even on a windowsill. going for walks and getting outside on the weekends, getting out of the city whenever you can to really feel your feet on the ground again.
At your retreats, you work with women on the principles contained in the book. What kinds of changes are these women seeing in their lives?
Well, there's a whole range, and some of them are actually pretty mind blowing for me when I hear back from women. Some a lot have huge aha moments. So they come feeling really disconnected from their femininity, and they leave really feeling like a luscious woman. Some get pregnant when they leave. They've been trying to get pregnant for a long time, and they get pregnant after they leave. Some move. They realize that where they're living is not beneficial for their health or happiness, and they finally get the guts to pack up and move to the place they've always wanted to live. Some change careers for the same reason as I was saying before, with the changing of where one lives. And everyone across the board leaves much brighter. Their eyes are glowing, their faces are lit up, they feel energized, and it's re-inspired to go home to their home environments and make some changes to help them to really live and walk the path that they want to, as empowered, embodied, radiant, alive women.
Is there one particular idea that you would especially like to see women take away from this book?
Yes, to make pleasure your priority. Pleasure is our medicine. And like I was saying before with our masculine and feminine energies, to let pleasure override productivity. And to know that pleasure and joy, and by that I mean just letting yourself participate in the little things that light you up. The little things, so whether that's going to your favorite cafe for your favorite cup of tea or coffee, or going out for a matinee in the middle of the day just for the fun of it, or taking a painting class, or whatever it is for you, or just dressing really beautifully every day just for just the art of it. And to know that those little things really matter, and they're going to serve you just like clean air and clean water and delicious foods and yoga serves you. They're going to keep you lit up, and they're going to keep you healthy, and they're going to keep you connected to who you truly are. So don't underemphasize the importance of making pleasure really the guiding compass of your life.
Sara, give us your website or websites.
Sure. I have two. One is thewayofthehappywoman.com, and there you can download a free sample chapter, both audio and text of the book, to try it out. And also my personal website, which is saraavant.com. That's SaraAvant.com.